Good morning. It is November 22nd. We're here for our regular scheduled commissioner meeting. We have a full slate of commissioners. We have our administrator and our clerk of the board. And this time, I will call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please rise and join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is we have no minutes to approve, so we'll move right down to vouchers.
We have one today, fund expenditures. Move for approval of fund expenditures in the total amount of $416,757.63.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Takes us down to public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment? Anybody on the phone? Seeing none, we'll move down to approval of consent agenda. There are 4 items on the consent agenda today.
Move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 4 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the consent items 1 through 4 with no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Takes us down to the regular items. First one is the west directional road name change. Mr. Erdman.
Yes, well, hopefully I can illuminate this a little bit. I'm not sure our read ahead was illuminating. So we have some county roads inside the Riverview area, the 10 listed here, and they currently have no directional title on their on the road itself. So they're just agate or pearl or whatever. However, the surrounding portions of those streets that are in the city do have those directional indicators on them. This has caused a situation because over the years, the local addresses, mailing addresses of these people inside the county have changed to reflect the directional nature of these streets and have that indicator in their mailing address, and is even listed in the assessor's office as such. However, this is not the case with CCOM. They go off of what is officially in our road log, and officially in our road log, they do not have those directional indications on them. So this has increased the response time for emergency events in there because they're confused about the addresses. So the remedy to this is for the board to approve the name changes in the road log to indicate these directional indications. But that is a board action to change the road log to reflect that. This will update CCOM's database to reflect the nature of the mailing addresses there and hopefully reduce the confusion and bring the response times back down to where they need to be.
Questions?
How long does it take to get that into CCOM updated?
I'm not exactly sure. I think it should go fairly rapidly. We'll make the road log changes with the county road administration board as soon as possible, and get the database updated as quickly as possible. But if we don't take action, we can't do that. So.
Okay. So just add an east and west, but the numbers aren't.
No, the people's mailing addresses already reflect it. Mm-hmm. So this will just clear it up and put it into the database properly for first responders.
And what is the dividing line for east and west?
Boy, that's a good question. I think most of that falls inside the city now, and I'm not sure what their dividing line might be. 395, or maybe a little further west than that. I'm off the top of my head. I apologize. I don't remember.
Perhaps even 20th. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it might be too. It's somewhere in there. Most of what will impact for the county will be west designated.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Move for approval of Resolution 2023-311 as presented.
Second.
Been a motion and a second for Resolution 2023-311. correct? I'm trying to make sure I got the right resolution here. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Mr. Erdman. Next, we have a public hearing for declaring the surplus used bridge girders. And Mr. Erdman, this is you too. And at this time, I will open the public hearing and let you
Okay.
present.
These are for a set of, let's see here, about 18 girders that are now currently sitting in what we call the 68 pit. And as part of the reclamation and preparation for that property to be sold, we're asking to surplus these girders and send them to auction and recoup some value on them.
Questions?
Craig, are these girders significantly affected by just sitting? If they're in a road bridge, they're getting a lot more stress and use. I would presume that sitting doesn't harm them.
Not too much. The steel girders might weather a little bit, but it won't significantly impact their function. They all have a very good amount of life left in them.
So likely doesn't harm their value and makes them a saleable commodity.
I don't think it will harm their value at all. No.
Yeah. Have any idea, and I'm not looking for you to nail a price, but you know, are these worth 10,000 or multiples of that each?
Well, we have the pre-stressed multi-web concrete girders. We have valued at about $16,000, and the steel ones. And that, I should have marked that this morning. Did I run off and forget it? We had them at slightly more. I think they were at around 20,000 for the steel girder. Oh, yeah, here we go. Oh, 35,
Yeah.
about
So
35,000 for the steel.
all total, just ballpark, what do you think they might reasonably be worth?
Hopefully 40,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
you know, hard to say at auction.
Yeah, no, I
What
totally
are the
get
length
it.
of those steel?
I believe they're
pretty-
80 feet.
Yeah, they're pretty long.
Let me see here. If I can
Those
find
4
it.
of them are 78 feet.
Oh, 78 feet?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
thank
when you
you.
priced that was the total of all the added up, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
So if you're going to sell them at auction, are they going to stay where they're at, or are you going to have to move them to an auction site?
They'll stay in place for the auction, and then part of that we would prefer that whoever wins the auction comes and takes them. We don't have the means really to move them,
That's my
at least in-house.
78 footers. It's
Yeah, that takes a little bit of a specialized approach.
all right. Thank you.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to weigh in on this? Because it is a public hearing. Nobody on the phone? And no more comments from the commissioners. So at this time, I'll close the public meeting and entertain a motion.
Move to approve Resolution 2023-312 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for Resolution 2023-312. Without further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. That moves us down to settlement of dairy land for damaged sheriff department vehicle. Mr. Briggs.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So we had a sheriff's vehicle that was damaged back in November of last year. Dairyland has tendered policy limits in the amount of $25,000 for the insured, the at-fault driver. And so in exchange for that $25,000, we would need to sign a release, basically meaning that we can't go back and sue the at-fault driver later for more money. So my recommendation is that we approve that and signing the release so that we can obtain the $25,000. I don't know if the sheriff wanted to add anything regarding the vehicle at all. I know the value of the vehicle also was a bit in excess of $25,000. I think the Kelly Blue Book for the Durango was right around 23,000, but that would be for a Durango that was not fitted with the police capabilities. So I think that those upgrades, making it a police cruiser, pushed it far in excess of policy limits. So again, my recommendation is for the commission to pass a motion authorizing Mr. Gonzalez to sign the release on behalf of the county. They'll send a check to us, they meaning Dairyland, the at-fault insurance, and then we can move on from that.
Questions?
Do we know if the specialty equipment, radios, et cetera, were salvageable, and do we retain that value?
They're salvageable.
Okay.
The cost for taking them out of a brand-new car that is in the tune of about $20,000 when you take it out and then reinstall it and something else.
Well, that's helpful, because my line of thought on this is our deductible is $25,000 with our insurance company. I realize that's not directly on point to this, but at least, we don't have a direct loss for that 25. I'm trying to get a sense of how much above and beyond the 25 was the loss to the county, and with what we pay to install the equipment, the value of the equipment, I'm guessing that the loss above 25 is probably somewhere around 30,000, give or take,
Or more.
or more. And
So the car, if you allow me,
sure,
it's what you would call a special order car. So when you order a Dodge Durango for police purposes, it comes with pre-wiring and a bunch of different things to allegedly save you money. But the problem is you have to put all the equipment in there. Like I say, it's about a $20,000 install. Equipment from one car to another, which has already taken place, so that money's gone. The car, if I remember right, was brand new, wasn't it?
I think it was a 2019 or 2018.
Oh, okay, could be wrong. Yeah, so there's, the depreciation of it. So the 25,000 for the car itself is probably okay. And then the other part is Mike Gonzalez can't sign the titles the way I have to sign the titles away on police vehicles, which I'm willing to do. It's no problem. It's just
yeah.
I have to sign those titles away.
I'm just trying to get a sense of how much value the county is actually losing, weigh that against the cost of recovery. And then the secondary question of, why does Dairyland and their insurance company, which is Merrimet or something, I forget the name of it. Anyway, why do they care about securing a release on behalf of their client? Why not let that client still be accountable for that?
It's typical for insurance companies to submit a release in a scenario like that. I think if this played out, it might be something we'd want to go into executive session to discuss, but just giving you sort of a thumbnail sketch of what it could look like if we did go into litigation. I think we could talk about an open session, but typically when you would file a lawsuit against an at-fault party, the insurance companies will tender limits at that point, perhaps paying into a court registry, because they want to make sure that they're operating in good faith with respect to their insured.
Right.
So I think there could be a possible scenario where we don't sign a release and we get the 25,000 either. But getting back to my recommendation about why I think we should sign the release is, unless this person has substantial assets, a personal debt against that at-fault party would be dischargeable in bankruptcy. So you could go through all this, you have a judgment, it's a piece of paper, but how do you collect that judgment? It could be difficult if this person doesn't have significant assets, and most people who do have significant assets do, get the appropriate amount of insurance. The individual is also 30 years old, so there's a possibility there's an umbrella policy or something on a family vehicle doctrine or something like that if it was still staying with his parents. So there are, I guess, avenues potentially to collect more, but those would typically be if it was a very high value claim. I don't know that's worth the county's trouble. We could discuss in greater detail if you the commissioners wish to.
No, the only other question I have, and I'll try to ask it delicately, is has there been any, well, let me rephrase it. Has there been a full, unequivocal acceptance of fault by the insured party? Or
Yes.
is there some grayness there?
I would say by the insured's insurance company.
Okay.
State law is pretty clear that
Yeah.
where fault is clear, the insurance company for the at-fault driver has a duty to promptly pay for property damage. They might quibble over bodily injury claims, but they could get into some problems if they don't promptly pay these property damage claims. And so they have accepted fault in terms of the property damage claim 100%, which leads me to believe if there were a bodily injury claim, they would probably accept fault on that as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, I don't like it, but I think your recommendation's the right one.
Thank you.
Just in closing, just so you understand, so we had to replace that car. We had to install and uninstall equipment, and when it was all said and done, it cost the county somewhere north of $50,000.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, you're just looking for consensus here because there's no resolution number on this?
Correct. We would not necessarily need a resolution here. We have a proposed release from Dairyland, and so we just need a motion to have Mr. Gonzalez sign off on that release, and then I can forward that to Dairyland, and they'll send us a check in the mail.
Okay. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion to approve Mike Gonzalez, our county administrator, to sign the release.
Second discussion.
There's been a motion, a second, for Mr. Gonzalez to sign off on the release of the vehicle. Discussion.
Mr. Briggs, are you comfortable with the content of that motion? Is that sufficient for all the points you needed covered?
Yes, I believe it is because the release was attached as part of the agenda item, so I think it's
Okay.
it's clear what release we're discussing.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Moves us down to public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment?
George Dockstetter, Self Landing Road. Two things. On the agenda, I noticed there's only one public comment period, which is fine for today, but I would like to see in the future the second public comment come after department heads and administrative updates, in case there's something that pops up that the community wants to speak to. It's not necessarily going to happen, but I think it'd be appropriate to move it to the end of the agenda. And the second thing, I've been thinking about this for a while. About 30 days ago, Derek Bratton, the county planner, and I went up to Mesa and had coffee. And we were talking about economic growth with community members that were there. There was probably 8 or 9 people there. And the biggest problem they've got is DNR controls all the ground around Mesa. They have no way to grow or expand or bring anything in. And I think it might behoove the county to look into maybe trying to do some sort of land swap with DNR and give them some of our crap and take theirs, so that Mesa might have a chance to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? And we will look into moving that public comment after the elected and department head business so that they can comment on any of that. Nobody on the phone? All right, takes us down to commissioner administrator updates. Mr. Gonzalez?
Thank you, Chair. Been spending a lot of time with Tim Anderson working on the budget as we that comes to fruition. So I've been working really hard. So thanks to the auditor's office and all their help. Just a reminder to the public, we'll be closed Thursday for Thanksgiving, then also Friday. So if you need to conduct some business, hopefully you can get it done today. Also, wanted to bring this up for discussion. I've been talking with department heads, elected officials about taking a break, meeting through December 6th, and taking the 13th, 20th, and 27th off, then reconvening on January 3rd. So that's a decision that the board would have to make. So wanted to bring that out into the open so you guys can make that decision.
Is that it?
Yes, sir, that's it.
Commissioner Peck?
Spent the majority of last week at the Washington State County Leaders Conference in Spokane, a combination of Wasatch County engineers and a number of other county-level government interests. As usual, it's a great experience, great learning experience. The areas going forward in 2024 that I think really warrant significant focus and attention by this board will be the evolving changes to the Washington State Association of County bylaws. There's been an ongoing discussion for a long time about how the voting process within the Wasatch structure should be handled, whether or not we use equal voting or whether we use weighted voting. And if we use weighted voting, whether that's predicated on population, geographic size, how much money you contribute to Wasatch in dues. And some of those issues were resolved, but not all of them. And those will be important focus areas. The Legislative Steering Committee met. I co-chaired that meeting, as I have for the last year plus. And as I reported previously, the Wasatch body chose not to have a formal agenda for legislative activities, given that it's a short session. But we did add an item to our Wasatch policy statement. The policy statement is a multi-page document that spells out what Wasatch's collective position is on a number of key issues affecting most, if not all, counties. The one that we added was an effort for some level of tort reform, looking at joint and several liability and trying to get some relief for counties there, and also on indigent defense costs. Like I say, it was 3 fairly full days. I could probably take a half an hour to report just on the highlights, but I would say that going forward, the bylaws, the funding, LSC structure, weighted voting, those are all things that the county will want to focus on in 2024. If anybody's got questions or wants details on any of the other topics that were discussed there, I'd be happy to make myself available at their convenience. Thanks.
Commissioner Mullen?
So had the Wasatch meeting, talking about creative, affordable housing options. Also had the Board of Health Finance Committee meeting, and basically going to bring that budget forward before the Board of the Health Department this coming week. Also sat in on the discussion of Benton Franklin Superior Court, and just for informational purposes only was why I sat in on it, to find out, just to inform myself of the actions that people are seeking. So that is it. Thank you.
Well, my last week consisted of the Columbia Basin Sustainable Water Coalition Executive Committee, and then the Columbia Basin Sustainable Water Coalition Stakeholder Meeting. Then right after that was the Columbia River Counties Caucus agenda meeting Monday, and then a budget meeting yesterday. And then the budget meeting, it's pretty evident that we're heading into some turbulent times, and I think that we got to really look at and focus on shoring up our budget here in Franklin County, because it isn't looking like it's going to be too bright of a year next year as far as revenues. And with that, we'll move down to elected department head business. Is there any elected or department heads that would like to speak?
Morning, Commissioners. Got a sheet here I want to give each one of you a copy of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As you're all aware, the assessor's office has taken an awful lot of heat this year for the assessed values and holding to those assessed values. The staff, I'm just going to speak on their behalf. They're professionals. Their skill set is phenomenal. They're highly respected throughout the entire state in the positions that they hold. And in fact, in many cases, they're the ones that many other counties come to for advice and even training. We've even had other counties actually send employees here for our staff to work with them to help them improve what they do. So with that being said, I wanted to give you each of you a sheet there that shows that even with all the heat, our audit came in at 91.3%, not even at 100. And that's the audit by the Department of Revenue. So our assessed values are still under 100% across the board. And I just wanted to give you that so you can see they did a damn good job downstairs. They kept within the areas that they needed to, and they did not overassess. That is on a mass scale. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be one-offs here and there, and we still are working with people on that. And as far as the hearings with the Board of Equalization thus far, they've sustained our values by over 98% thus far. So that's a pretty high standard right there that they've met even with our own local board hearing the cases. So I wanted to answer any questions you may have on that. And then I got another handout for you.
Any questions on the first?
Mr. Rosenau, if memory serves, you told us previously that your target is 100% of market value plus or minus 10%. Do I remember that right?
The statute is 100%. The Department of Revenue frowns if you're off by more than 10%.
Okay, and so to be sure that the audience is clear, the 91.3% that you're reporting says that you are 8.7% below what the Department of Revenue believes is 100% of market value, which is your target.
Based on the IAAO standards that they've adopted, and the IAAO, International Association of Assessing Officers, is the one that set the 90 to 110.
Sure. And if you could, just succinctly, because I don't want to take a lot of your time, but it seems logical to me that local professionals working in your office have the best eyeball on what local values are, and I'm a little leery of the State Department of Revenue and Olympia's ability to tell us more succinctly than your own staff what our local values are. So in a nutshell, how does the State Department of Revenue have a clue really about what our values are? What's that
They
process?
actually come in and pull over 1,000 actual sales and properties in this county in various different classifications and areas, and they audit them.
Okay.
Just like a financial audit, the numbers have to fit. So now I will say this, we have to stop as of January 1st. They audit us all the way to the end of April. So the fact that these numbers are maybe not at 100% might be a little bit indicating that there might have been some movement between January and April. Mm-hmm. Even if the market softened a little bit, it would indicate these numbers would be higher rather than lower.
Right. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on this, Commissioners? Okay, I've got another sheet here I want to hand out to each one of you. Actually, two sheets.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So this has to do with revenues, and since we're talking budgets, and I understand how tight things are, I wanted to break this out for you so you can see. The first column is just simply the budget year. The second one is an approximate new construction that was left, that was not picked up. The next column is the 23 approximate new construction that was left that was not picked up. That's this year's. And then what the approximate budget shortage for Franklin County, then the approximate budget shortage for all of the taxing districts. If you just look at across at 2023, there was a shortage of probably 13,000 to our budget. That would have been last year's new construction for this year's taxes. To all the taxing districts, about 68,000. If you look at 2024, to Franklin County, it's about a $72,000 shortage in the budget. All taxing districts together, about $375,000. Those dollars don't go away. They add every single year to your highest lawful. So after approximately 25 years, down to 1948, or 2048, the county is shorted $2 million. All taxing districts in the county over $10 million just from last year's and this year's new construction on a very conservative level, and adding in 1% if the commissioners or the other taxing districts were to take 1% on top of theirs. Number 2 has one extra column in it. Page 2 that I gave you also shows a potential for 2024. That is next year. The reason I bring that up is because of the request for staffing for an appraiser to be able to pick up all the new construction we possibly can. For 2024, for 2025's income would be $70,000 potential loss, and I'm being very, very conservative on this number. It's $142,000 then carried across for the year of a loss for the county in shortages because the others carry across on their highest lawful. And then as you follow that across to all the taxing districts, that's nearly $750,000 one-year loss if we just add another $70,000 that we can't get to next year. In 25 years, that is $3.9 million to this county and over $20 million to the taxing districts. So I just wanted to throw that out there at you because I know that you can't justify an employee for losing $13,000 last year or $72,000 this year. But if we can't pick up the other one, now you're at $142,000 and it's going to continue to climb because our new construction and the growth of this county is not going to stop. So just wanted to give you those facts, those numbers, and then answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
So what is the cost of an extra employee?
I'm guesstimating, depends on their level, their skill set. The one that we've asked for, I don't have that budget item in here. I don't know if Tim's got it, but I think they've got to set them up with, office equipment, so forth to start with, and then you've got benefits and everything. I think you're going to be just north of 100,000. So we literally are money ahead if we miss this next year going forward. Every single year, we're money ahead.
Except for the rest of the.
And that's without additional growth and I'm being very conservative on only $70,000 next year loss on new construction. To be honest with you, I think it'll be north of 100,000, but I was being very conservative on these numbers so it didn't inflate the impact in comparison to the cost of an employee. So, and that's just the counties. If you look at the responsibility of the taxing districts, which that is what my office and my oath is responsible for, is all the taxing districts. But I can only do it with budget monies from the county commissioners.
Right. So even it might be a wash for the county, the rest of the taxing districts are going to suffer that loss of revenue.
And I don't think it'll be a loss for 2025's budget. I think we'll pick up more than enough to more than pay for that person and bring additional revenues into the county. And as we continue to grow, there's just going to be more new construction. What I don't want to be is too far behind the curve to where we keep losing every single year, because you see what the impact is after 25 years. I mean, it's a huge impact.
Any other questions?
I have no other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Just
Yes.
one other quick question. Do your numbers assume the 1% cap remains in place and the county takes it each year?
Yes, it does. That is a 1% increase, and it assumes it for the taxing districts. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to be very, very conservative. So even if you pull out that, you're at 72,000 and you leave that all the way to the bottom, take 25 years times 72 and not add any 1%. But that's not realistic. I mean, if you look at taxing districts as a whole across this state, it's 90-some% take the 1% on a continual basis because they have to for the growth. Otherwise, you're just falling too far behind. So, but it does count that 1% every year. Any other questions? Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Any other department heads, elected officials?
Gentlemen, I want to talk today. I was contacted here in the past couple days, and it was concerning a notice or press release or whatever it was from Franklin County regarding efforts to look at dissolving the bi-county courts. And so it was a county Facebook post regarding a meeting that took place. And I was contacted by a couple of people, and also I've been here long enough. I've been through one of these processes before, but I come to you today, I want to make a brief statement and ask something of you guys. Because quite frankly, to me, that came completely out of left field, and it did for the people who contacted me. But I got to tell you, I'm thankful today for the way our county government's set up, because as much as there is separate electeds, and we all have strong opinions, we agree and we disagree, it's this board and this board alone that speaks with the sole voice. And so it's this board that drives what the county and speaks for all of us. And I'm hoping today that as I make my brief statement, it'll engender a discussion here. And maybe you'll have to have Mike explain it, what the press release was and a little bit more about it. But my hope in bringing this up is that my experience with having been through that, some of these, what I think are very valuable, and obviously these are, a 70-year-old relationship, and the tone, what people were concerned about was the tone and the manner in which it came at it. And I guess it had me thinking about it last night, and I recollected sound advice that I received over 25 years ago, which is exactly how long I've been married. Well, actually a little longer than that. But you know what? It basically said you're going to run into difficulties in a marriage or any partnership, but it's unwise when you run into challenges and problems to start off by doubting the union or attacking the partner. And so my hope is, that this board will discuss after you get an explanation from Mike on what it was, and try to focus, on the challenges. I mean, this was a union that was brought together. And as your auditor, and as knowing that as soon as we're done, you're going to reconvene the meeting on the revenues, and that we're 4.8 apart from requests and estimated revenue, and we're probably, in 2 plus in just addressing step increases and maintaining normal businesses. And so we have so many healthy bi-county relationships, and each elected has their own opinion, and I think you should listen to all of them. But I think it's important that this board be, the initiator of these things, because this appears this will, is attempting to build steam before it even has come to you, as evidenced by the amount of people that participated in this meeting and the interest they have. And I can, speak to OPD when that relationship fell apart. And, we're dealing with it now. Just one of the consequences of that is now we're competing with our former partner in the cost and the labor force. And that doesn't include, any of the other capital expenses, remodeling offices, adding attorneys, when in fact, these relationships are efficient government. I mean, it's business 101. That if you can keep your capital and your managerial overhead down, your efficiency's higher. That's in anything. That's in government or otherwise. And so I would ask that you guys, if we want to analyze something, let's analyze OPD. Let's look at, that's been 7 years, let's look at how that's evolved, and it actually takes a lot of time and resources. And so my hope is that my request of the board today is to actually send a message to the community that you actually affirm and appreciate the partners, because this particular, meeting and the idea that we would convene a committee to, everybody supports efficient government. I do. But where we use that government sends a message. And when you start off with, hey, we want to dissolve this, it's a solution seeking a problem short of, the public outcry for it. I mean, this is always electeds in here that have strong feelings, take ownership of their budget, and, they send these messages. And we've had to, at Franklin County, balancing this budget is going to be difficult. So I just think, these are efficient. If we have problems with it, let's meet with them and talk about it. I didn't see any, Benton County, I don't know for sure, but I mean, there's questions whether every stakeholder was even at the table. I know we haven't done any kind of financial analysis or been asked to do it. And, we are the elected representatives of to produce your financials. So I guess I could, have Mike explain I don't know how familiar each of you are from the Facebook post, but I hope that you would just send, affirm and appreciate the partners, and then you can listen to whatever challenges, because clearly there was some people at the table and they have concerns about it, but I hope we approach it not by attacking the union, but by focusing on, the changes and the challenges that have come out of it. And so, but given our limited resources, I have to ask you, again, is this a solution seeking a problem? Because we've got some challenges with what's coming in '24 as far as the revenues and the declines. So,
Questions?
So, Mr. Beaton, I appreciate your remarks. I'll just be succinct and say that the email chain that I eventually saw started on November 1st. I would note that 2 of 3 commissioners were copied on that. Actually, they were addressees, but no one apparently felt it was appropriate or necessary to notify all 3 commissioners. And in fact, I didn't learn of it until the evening before the meeting when the county prosecutor noted that I was not on any of the emails between November 1st and November 16th when he forwarded a copy to me. So your sort of indirect assessment that it appears to be a narrowly focused group of people with a passionate agenda, and the need for a broader discussion probably includes making sure that everybody's even notified. Thanks.
Mr. Gonzalez, I think.
Yeah, sure. Matt and I had a good conversation about this yesterday, and it wasn't on our Facebook page or any official platforms that represent the county. It was on my personal LinkedIn page. So yeah, and I've got 12,000 followers on there, mostly from Eastern Washington. So the response was quite broad. I have a pretty large platform on there, which I'm conscious of. But, as I explained to Matt, I have a media background, so my perception of things sometimes is different. And I acknowledge sometimes I need to temper myself on the posting. But I think, my mindset with posting it on there was, let the public know what's going on, and get some feedback from them. I think the residual effects, I wrote some notes here, is people thought I did the inviting, which I was invited, and Sheriff did all the inviting. I wasn't involved in that process, so I just wanted to put that on the record. But the response was pretty swift from, I got several visits from, I got a visit from Judge Stam, a call from Tiffany Runge, some other stakeholders in Benton County who perhaps weren't invited and felt they were left out of the party. So that, to be 100% transparent, I think there was some disconnect there and feeling of being left out. Having been a part of the meeting, the reality is the legislature is going to really have to make us work hard on our own capacity if we even decided to move forward. And you're going to have to elect separate judges. Those judges will need chambers, support staff. So you're going to need court administrators. So really the process would start this legislative session. More than likely, based on my experience and what I heard there, probably wouldn't get out of committee. And we'd have to produce a working document. So this is at best a year away, and more than likely several years away if you were to do it. And there's costs involved. So I'll leave it at that. You know, I came as a sort of an observer to see what the tone of the room was. But I think, you know, and I won't say regretfully, you know, perhaps I shouldn't have posted that, giving the connotation that the board was in favor of that, because that wasn't my intention. It was merely to let the public know that this was happening. But I think the unintended consequences was perhaps the board did support this, and that wasn't my intent. And Commissioner Didier and I talked about it a little bit this morning. I'm always a transparency guy, like, you know, let's get it out to the public. But, you know, I think we do need to take a tempered approach to this, because it's, you know, it's something that I think we really have to do it collectively for both Benton and Franklin County. We can't just, I don't think we could say, all right, you know, we're leaving, you know, because I don't think that helps us. But I'll close with this. There was overwhelming support from the group that was there to investigate this and look at the numbers. And, you know, it doesn't hurt to look at the numbers and see if nothing's done. This has been a system, like Matt said, has been in place for many years. And, you know, if that was the will of the board, I'll do whatever you guys want me to. If you want me to dig in and look at the numbers, if you don't want me to do anything, I'm good with that. But I just wanted to give you kind of a full picture, and I respect what Matt's saying 100%, and I think he gave me some good advice on posting policy issues in the future. So I appreciate that.
Commissioner Mullen.
I would just say, you know, I was notified of the meeting and went for informational only, just to inform myself and gather what why the topic is being discussed. Mainly, like I said, just to educate myself. I think we have a good working relationship with the commissioners of Benton County, and I would agree that I think we need to look at it and see what's best for the citizens of Franklin County, but we should no way try to jeopardize our relationship with Benton County. I mean, we're in a partnership, and with the way the economy is looking right now, I think we need to take a deep, hard look at anything before we make any big movements like that. And we're already struggling trying to find people to work in those particular fields. And like I said, I attended the meeting only just to educate myself on why the topic was being brought forward.
So if I might weigh in on this, I did not attend. But I don't see a problem with analyzing any of this if it can save Franklin County money. I have not seen that with the separation of OPD. In fact, I've seen an increase in costs there that is substantial for Franklin County, as we have finding our ARPA funds disappearing, trying to suffice the need for OPD. But there is nothing wrong with analyzing any of these as long as it can save Franklin County money. I have reached out to a commissioner from Benton County and asked him if we could maybe readdress OPD, because we are in competition with one another over attorneys, and it is costing us a substantial amount of money. And if we could combine and use the same attorneys like we did previously, I think we could save ourselves money. I think as good stewards of this county, we need to find ways to make our budgets work without raising taxes. Because the people that are living out there that are trying to make a living, they can't just go out and increase their funding that comes into their household. They have to make it work with a budget, and we need to too. So there's nothing wrong with looking. I don't see anything wrong with posting it on Facebook, as long as you didn't say we were in favor of it, because I think the public needs to be aware of the transparency of government and looking at how we're going to save them monies in taxation.
I
Mr.
guess,
Beaton.
you know, I would say communications matter. I mean, the people, the people that show up in the room and the message we've sent. I mean, that's why I would ask that this board would consider, there is nobody, auditor's office, accountants, everybody, and to include all the electeds that work to run efficient office. And it is absolutely prudent to, again, address the challenges. And even, you know, I mean, like I was use the example of any partnership and the good advice. Look, people change over time. Our needs, our desires, the laws. I mean, the thing that just came up with the bailiffs. These are all things that pop up and we have to address. But if this board, I mean, the appearance when you convene something like that and it comes out, however it comes out. I mean, I receive calls and they're like, "What's going on? Is this being kicked around?" Communications and being cognizant of the appearance. I mean, I'm standing here today to tell you that as it starts to build, and people are like, "Well, where do these guys stand?" And that's why I would ask you guys, you know, to reaffirm, because I'll tell you, if every time you have a problem, with your partner, you look at them and say, I just don't know if we should have been into this. We shouldn't have started this way. Maybe we should look at, you know, we need to analyze whether we should go our own way. Do we have enough money to do it? That's a very different message. And the importance of public relations is big. And, you know, sometimes you don't go to the room because people outside will look and go, "Well, look who the heck's in the room. And why are they doing this?" And look at.
Sheriff was in the room.
And so clearly we have strong, you know, you have strong opinionated.
Your court clerk was in the room.
Clearly you have strong.
Mr. Beaton has the floor.
Clearly you have strong opinions, and we've had them before. And that's what I say on OPD. I mean,
Mr. Beaton has the floor.
So I would say that this appearance matters, and that's why I'm here, as I'm the one, you know, our office sits over the top of all these numbers, and it would be prudent. I think when we dissolved OPD, the level of analysis that went into it wasn't very deep, and then I know that as far as the numbers analysis, and then trying to make sure you capture what we're up against now. I mean, there was some legislation that resulted in, and you have a pandemic. I can just tell you right now, whatever we do with any of these bi-county, when you think of the people of Franklin County, I think we are one community. Everybody does business in the whole community. And the idea that they don't differentiate between any of it. You go to the Toyota Center and watch hockey. You go to the Happos Center and go to an outdoor show. I mean, people work across, they want us all to work together and get along. So if it makes sense to analyze challenges, we'll bring those challenges to this board so the board can speak as a unified, instead of throwing bombs over there and them looking and going, "What is going on over in Franklin County?" I mean, you convened a meeting, we weren't invited to it. Do you have a problem with us? I mean, this is what I'm hearing and the appearance of it. And so I just wanted to come up today, and I'm glad we've had even this much conversation, and I'm pretty sure you're going to get an earful here in about 2 seconds. And so I just want, you know, you guys to know that sometimes when you go about your business, we need to be cognizant of public relations, because I heard about it and people are like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Well, nobody talked to us about the numbers, so I don't know, you know, nobody's produced any official numbers out of us." And so, thank you for this amount of time and even, you know, entertaining this, because cooperative government is efficient government. Lower CapEx as far as buildings. I mean, we just had to buy a building, right, to grow. It's business 101. So short of that, 70-year-old relationship, let's have a bias towards, hey guys, this is one community and we're not the most important person in the room. The people are, and they're the ones that are going to suffer from either poorer services or less efficient use of taxes. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one other comment before the sheriff speaks, if I might.
Yes.
I agree with Mr. Beaton that blindsiding our partners across the river is never good policy, and doesn't do anything to enhance cooperation. And the other is I've heard discussion about a 70-year-old relationship. I've heard a lot of discussion about cost and money and how much we can save. What I haven't heard is anybody talk about access to justice or quality of the services that we provide to people. And I think that really needs to be the focus, and that really needs to be what drives the budget that we put forward for our court system, whether we're going it alone or together. Thank you.
Sheriff Raymond.
So, as I mentioned before, I'm strategic. Okay? I did my homework before I called the meeting. I'm the one that called the meeting, and I'm the one that asked the state representatives and our senators to be present. And I'm the one that asked the key players, that would be Superior Court, the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's office, and OPD to attend. And if you look at the pictures, they were all there. And so the gist of the conversation is, what does it look like and what does it take to put a bill up on the floor to separate Benton and Franklin County Superior Courts, which is a judicial system, not a partnership, it's a judicial system, okay? And again, I've said I'm strategic, and I've identified somewhere north of $6 million that we spend on our Superior Court systems. And are we better serving the people of Franklin County if we start managing our own money? The answer is yes. But back to the meeting. So what come out of the meeting was that we need to develop a letter from the 4 key players, Superior Court, Mike Killian, OPD, the sheriff, and the prosecutor's office, and develop a letter to present to the commission, that'd be you 3, the legislators, to begin to explore it and to look at what are going to be the costs or what are going to be the cost savings, because there's 2 sides to every coin, okay? And at the end of the day, those 4 corners is who ultimately decides if they want their legislators to put it up for a vote, whether the community's upset about it or any of those type of things. And no one's saying change it right now. What I'm saying is it's time for us to get off our backsides and serve this county and the people in this county better, because ultimately you send millions of dollars over to Benton County commissioners, and these taxpayers don't get a whole lot of service out of those things. And this is just one topic. And I'm not going to shut up. I'm going to keep pushing, and I'm going to keep putting these things out there of the importance of having our own court administration so we can manage all of our courtrooms, our own judges that are here, working here, and serving the people of this county. And so it's strategic. I'm doing nothing illegal. I don't have to ask your permission to do it, and I'm not going to ask your permission to do it until we get to a point where we have a letter developed, which is on its way, along with a resolution that says, let's explore this, let's look and see. And we'll get it together, and we'll get it in front of this board so you can make a decision whether you want to do that or not. But that doesn't stop the sheriff of the county from starting to go, our court system's not working for the people of Franklin County. And I'm going to tell you that there were city officials in that meeting too, chiefs of police, that also said, no, we need to start looking at this, because we always are secondhand in our judicial system, even with these alleged partnerships. And partnerships are equal, and that's what you need to be concerned. So no one's done anything wrong. I'm sorry that the auditor's offended that he wasn't asked, but we didn't have to ask him. And I wouldn't have asked him, just so you know. Okay. Questions?
Well, I think the perception that of not inviting Benton County would be probably as shocking to them as it was shocking to this board to find out what's going on.
Do you know how many times Benton County's put up wanting to split Benton and Franklin County Superior Courts? Do you know who the producer of their bill before it was pulled down to split the courts with?
That's why I'm asking questions, because
Right.
I'm trying to inform myself as is the reason why I went and listened in on the meeting.
You understand the process of how 3 decades ago the Superior courtrooms were ran, that they were just ran by one court administrator for Franklin County and one from Benton County? And today it's ballooned to over 12 employees? And everybody's concerned about where's the money going, and we can't afford to do this? Well, then, if you can't afford to do it, Commissioner, then look at the numbers and see if there's a better way to do it and save it and implement it. Yeah, and this isn't an auditor's deal. The auditor takes the money in, or the treasurer takes the money in, the auditor sets the budgets and sends it out. You as legislators decide where the money goes, when it goes. I, as a public safety officer, determine what's best for our communities, that's Franklin County's communities, what's best for public safety. And that's all I'm doing is exercising that right. And if people are going to cry in their milk over it, so be it. But it is time for this county to start looking at things. It's time for this county to grow up and quit relying on other people to take care of their issues and problems. And we're not one community in the Tri-Cities. We're Benton and Franklin County communities with cities in each of those. And sometimes some things aren't a good partnership, and it's just time for us to do it. And it's not like it's the first time this topic has ever come up. A little bit of history and research will tell you they want to separate over there too. And I don't have to ask Tiffany Wrong or Benton County to start exploring these things as the chief executive officer of the county and the chief law enforcement officer of the county.
Well, I think it's good that we look at different options and what's best for the people of Franklin County.
First, what's
First.
best for the people of Franklin County first.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Then you have
I
to
think there
ask
just needs to
yourself,
be-
what
there
was
needs to be more
Franklin County
discussion.
government formed for?
Pardon me?
Then you have to ask yourself, what was Franklin County government formed for? Public safety and infrastructure, county roads.
Well, we do have to look at all the options of what is best for the people of Franklin County. I just think there needs to be more discussion on it and more in-depth.
Just told you, more discussion's coming. It's going to be in the form of a letter and a resolution to have those discussions.
All right.
Any other questions for the sheriff?
Oh, I've got a couple of comments, maybe a question in there. Respectfully, you're not the chief executive officer of the county either. You're the chief executive officer of the public safety of the county, and there is a difference. The executive branch of government in Franklin County is sitting right here. That's point one. Point two, Senator
Your
Benke.
RCW's,
Yeah,
Commissioner.
I did. I posted it on your Facebook page about 2 years ago for you. Senator Benke, when he first became a senator, ran a bill to dissolve, as you alluded to earlier. And it would be fruitful for the parties who are interested to look back to that experience and see why it died and why that bill was promptly pulled. Third, on this point, I'll acknowledge up front I may be mistaken, but I don't think I am. And that is that the state legislature can dissolve this, and I don't even know that they need our concurrence. Now, I can't imagine that they would undertake such a bill without our concurrence, and I believe the very first thing that they would look to is whether or not both parties are aligned and in agreement. And lastly, I'll just point out that when that bill was first floated by Senator Benke, it was at the request and urging of Benton County officials. Just to complete the record.
Jerome Devlin, to be succinct.
Yep.
Commissioner Delvin, to be precise.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. I believe.
Just briefly, I may take a different path than the sheriff to get to the end result of believing splitting the county's judicial district might be in our best interest, but I get to the same destination. OPD was brought up. I'm in a unique position to tell you what happened when we split OPD. I think it's important to remember this board did not decide to split OPD. Benton County unilaterally pulled out of that agreement with a letter 60 days in advance, which went unnoticed. I was a younger lawyer working for the Office of Public Defense at the time, the Bi-County Office of Public Defense. It was a difficult transition because Benton County simply stopped administering OPD. I don't know that Franklin County at the time believed that they intended to just split OPD and no longer administer it for us, but they definitely did. I stopped getting paid for approximately 2 months. Just kept coming to work because I served the people of Franklin County. My fellow defense attorneys at the time also kept coming to work. Payman Yonesi, Craig Stillwell, also without getting paid for several months. But eventually, we stood up our own Office of Public Defense. And the difference between having your own Office of Public Defense and having a Bi-County Office of Public Defense that is cited in Benton County, run by Benton County, is very large. And I don't know that everyone who isn't in the courts every day understands the difference. When I first took a contract in the Franklin County Superior Court, the head of OPD at the time, Mr. Hsu, in Benton County, he was a Benton County prosecutor, and then he was appointed the head of the OPD for both counties, just told me, if you do well, we'll promote you to work in Benton County's Superior Court. And of course, that's an odd statement coming from someone who's in charge of finding lawyers to work in Franklin County Superior Court. I did do well. I decided I didn't want to work in Benton County Superior Court. But that was the attitude of the head of our Bi-County OPD. We have had offices for OPD in our basement for a very long time. When I worked at OPD for the Bi-County OPD, those offices were empty all the time. I was debating whether or not to make a silly performance for you and call our Office of Public Defense. I'm not going to put them through that. But I can tell you right now, if you were a Franklin County citizen who needed to access the Office of Public Defense in Franklin County, and they went to the Franklin County Office of Public Defense, there is a human being down there who can help them. And that would not have been the case when we had a Bi-County OPD. Also, when the pandemic hit, I know that we are fighting, I'm personally fighting as a manager in the prosecutor's office with Benton County and all the surrounding areas that employ lawyers to get good employees. It would have been worse if we still had a joint Office of Public Defense, because they always looked out for Benton County first, because that's who they thought of themselves. They were the Benton County Office of Public Defense that also helped out Franklin County until Franklin County had something they wanted. This is not, I want to make clear, an effort to demonize Benton County. This is Benton County's idea to split the judicial districts. They just didn't get very far. They tried it in 2020. I know they tried it much earlier than 2020. It's my understanding it never got anywhere because Franklin County did not want to do it. But I would just encourage you to look at not just the dollars, but the services that we are able to render for those dollars. OPD is an excellent example. I think court administration is a better example. I believe there are 12 court administration employees. I don't really know, but I think that's about correct. All of whom work almost all of their time in Benton County, but they administer Franklin County remotely. For a little while, we pretended like we were going to have an administrator in the building. When there are 12 of them and we pay a third of all their salaries, you'd think we'd have 4 in the building, right? No, we had one for a couple of weeks who worked literally behind a locked door that even I, as a prosecutor, could not enter to access that public employee. And they still were only there 2 days a week, a couple hours. I don't know their exact schedule, but I know they stopped doing it because they prefer to be in Benton County. Benton County is looking out for Benton County, which is proper and right in what they've been elected to do. I think we in Franklin County need to look out for Franklin County. Doesn't mean throwing out our partnerships necessarily with Benton County. I think juvie is something that both counties greatly benefit from having combined. We don't have the money to build our own juvenile jail. That's a place where a partnership makes sense. But just like when Benton County unilaterally pulled out of the Office of Public Defense when they felt it no longer benefited them, I think we need to really look at whether or not it benefits us to stay in a judicial district. I need access to judges, and our judges are great. I'm not going to stand up and say they aren't, but I do know that a lot of what they do is situated in Benton County. 4 o'clock on a Friday, it's unusual that you would find a judge in Franklin County unless the hearing has gone long, but it's not unusual that you would find one in Benton County. So if you need a search warrant or you need some ex parte order signed, the level of services we're getting under the current arrangement, I don't believe is what we would get, what law enforcement would get, what the citizens of Franklin County would get if we managed our own. And we're certainly big enough to do it. There are lots of counties around our size who manage their own. There is a very recent example of counties who were a bi-county Superior Court district and have now split into individual counties in the recent past. We definitely have to look at the numbers and figure out what we can get, but I think it's important not just to look at the numbers, but to look at the service we get for the numbers. You know, we're spending, I don't know what the numbers are, the sheriff's saying around $6 million. Can we get better service for that amount of money? Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Not a question, just an observation, and thank you for your comments. But most importantly, thank you for focusing on service to constituents and not cost. Until your comments, virtually everything I've heard was that we're not getting our, excuse me, we're not getting our money's worth, and that this was a budget concern. And I think that what ought to drive this whole conversation is access to justice and quality of services to constituents, and then we look at whether or not we can afford to do that. And I heard you loud and clear that that's your focus as well.
And it isn't about getting a specific person on the bench, but I would note it's not uncommon for Franklin County to have a different choice for who's going to fill one of those positions. And when we have a different choice from Benton County always gets to decide who sits on the bench, which is also an issue. Thank you.
No, thank you for informing us. Thank you.
Mike Killian, Superior Court Clerk. I just wanted to agree with what Sheriff and Mr. Stovern have said about splitting the judicial districts. I have worked as the Superior Court Clerk since 2001. I see day to day that we do not get the services that we pay for. We do not get the access to justice for the Franklin County citizens. If someone is needing a protection order, we have multiples of those every single day. If they're not here during the ex parte time, which is 1 to 1:30, if we don't have a judge here, they have to go to Benton County to get those orders signed. I don't think that's access to justice. I don't think it's right for the citizens of Franklin County to have to go to Benton County for services that they should be receiving here in Franklin County. And so this does need to be looked at. The last time it was studied in detail was 2002. At that point, it was decided not to split, but they were looking at getting a 6th judge, which was allocated by the state legislature. And then we had a 7th judge later on for Franklin County. The money that we are spending for the judicial district, we would be able to pay for our own 3 judges here in Franklin County, 3 bailiffs. We would only need a court administrator and an office assistant is all we would need for court administration. And I think we would save hundreds of thousands of dollars if the judicial district was split. So it does need to be looked at. So do you have any questions for me?
So the judges would have to reside here in Franklin County?
No, the judges can reside in either county.
They can?
Yes.
Currently? If we split, that
They would have
still-
to be, I would assume there would have to be a special election, and those folks could run either in Benton or Franklin County, but they would only be on the ballot in Franklin County. So they would be elected by the voters of Franklin County. There was a
Mr.
law that was
Stovern could-
passed a few years ago that allowed judges to reside in any county they wanted to in the state.
Yeah, that's where I think Mr. Stover was going to go, is they could live in Olympia
Right.
legally.
But they would be on the ballot only in Franklin County, not
No, no,
not in Thurston County.
Yeah, just making clear that they can live anywhere.
Right. But I don't think a judge is going to want to live in Olympia and, travel every day to Franklin County.
Probably not.
Mr. Killian, go through that list. You said 3 judges.
3 judges, our own 3 bailiffs. We have 3 superior courtrooms now that are very underutilized. And a court administrator and then an office assistant is all we would need. We don't need all these different case managers, executive assistants, manager of court operations, court administrator, assistant court administrator. We don't need those in Franklin County.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Killian?
No, but thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm always available for any questions.
All right, thank you.
First, Commissioners, I want to just say Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Commissioner Peck, I don't know if I'll have the opportunity to get up again before we see you leave, but we appreciate your help. I personally appreciate you. You've done a lot for me in my office, and I appreciate the respect you give the office that I hold. One thing I've found that just an observation, is we see a lot of departments, heads, and elects voicing their opinion when it doesn't affect their office at all. I guess it's called politics, but not just this issue today, but others that have come up. Your administrator has the authority. You guys as a board have given him that authority to act on behalf of the courthouse and what's best for their interest, and he looks at things. A decision is made, and then other departments or elects come and voice their opinion about something that doesn't affect them directly. And then I see the administrator being undermined, because then that authority is pulled back from him and asked to change his mind or to do something different. I think that doesn't do much for morale either. But, I just want to make that observation, that I think that when we give our administrator authority, that we should allow him to exercise that authority unless you 3, feel that it's not done properly. But I appreciate all of you. I do. I know it's a hard thing, and I do. I really sincerely wish all of you happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other elected or department heads?
Well, I'm going to kind of change tact here from what's been going on and address a budget. And I was unable to attend the last budget hearing. I just wanted to point out, I know that a road levy shift is on the table. I'm not here to argue the necessity of that. I understand the finances of the county. I'm only here to state what the possible impacts of that road levy shifter will affect. And essentially, Public Works has two budgets in essence. An operational budget, which is largely the revenue comes from the road levy and gas tax. This pays for all the things that we don't have a grant for, and also pays some of the money that the grants don't cover. So the primary things, the 4 big things that will be impacted by any significant amount of a road shift will be the road preservation, which is chip sealing, crack sealing, things like that, and minor maintenance. Our care and maintenance of the gravel roads, we spend, it's a large portion of our budget. Re-graveling and things like that will become more difficult. The third thing, which is always kind of up to nature, is snow removal, and we could have a negative impact on what level of service we can provide depending on how severe of a levee shift that we see, and how severe the weather is. That one is a hard one to tell. Even in a good year, it can be quite devastating. And the fourth thing is that it affects the capital side of our budget, which is the other half of it, because we do have certain obligations to the county has to contribute to the grants. You know, normally in anywhere from 5 to 15%, sometimes 20, as part of our money in those grants. And I just wanted to make that clear to you and the public that, you know, when there is a road shift, those are the things that get impacted. And I don't have other revenue sources that can bridge that. What's in the capital budget in grants is encumbered. We can only use that for what we said we're going to use it for. I can't move it anywhere. And so I like I said, I'm not arguing for the necessity or non-necessity. I only want to bring forth what the potential impacts are.
Could you give us that third item again? I didn't hear it.
Oh, okay. Was it snow removal?
Snow removal.
Yeah.
Supposedly, we're in for a light year for weather. Let's hope. But more importantly, County Road Administration Board for the state has just announced a $70 million call for projects that you'll see by spring. I've mentioned this to you previously.
Yes.
And when you're talking about 10% match on money, it's a 9-to-1 return.
It is.
And if we don't have money in the budget to match those projects, it's a 90% loss on those dollars.
It is, and RAP program is vital to the rural roads, especially in our county. We don't have, as we know, we don't have a lot of local resources to put towards our own road system. We depend very heavily on these state and federal grants to do our capital improvement, and even to some degree, our preservation work. We do have a grant that comes in from the County Road Administration Board called CAP that helps offset some of those costs.
So a $100,000 loss in your capital capacity for matching can be a $900,000 loss to your program.
Yes. Like I said, just trying to make that clear. I'm not trying to, I understand the county's financial position, and I understand the resources that you have to draw from are limited, and that includes the road levy. And like I said, I'm not arguing necessity. I only want to make it clear what the potential impacts of such a shift will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Any
again,
other questions?
Larger the shift, bigger the impact. I think that's fairly obvious, but I'll state it anyway. So,
No, I appreciate you coming forward and stating that today. I mean, we have tried to keep the road levy switch or road shift as low as possible, and I believe we'll continue to try to do that to preserve our roads. So
well,
we do thank you for coming forward and making that acknowledgement. As we do need to take care of our roads, and we don't want to
our
restrict.
most visible and expensive asset and most economic, has the most economic impact in our county, in my kind of biased opinion. I'm a road guy.
No, I agree.
But,
Thank you.
I was going to go somewhere else with that now. I'm afraid I've lost my train of thought. But, it's a difficult situation. I don't envy it, you in your position. And quite honestly, I don't envy me in mine when I have to figure it out. But we will. We have in the past. But, there's also, I also want to point out one last thing is that especially if there's any significant, if it's a large road shift, levy shift, it doesn't just impact the year that you're in. It has ramifications down the road. And it also has an impact in our cash flow, which is always kind of a fun game. So I'll leave you with that. If there are any more questions I can answer, I'd be happy to try.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other elected?
Just very briefly, and I too would like to thank Commissioner Peck for his years of service, and he always has very good, informed, pointed questions, and it's going to be a loss to the county. So thank you again for your years of service for the county. But on the issue of the splitting the judicial districts, I think it's really part of a pattern with the county that we need to analyze really where our money's going. It isn't just the judicial districts, but there's a lot of grants and funding. For example, I was just looking at a money that we take in for homelessness, and that money too goes to human services. And not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, but just analyzing those relationships, looking where the money's going, and making sure that it's for the best benefit for the community. And not just assuming that it is. So just critically looking at those relationships and making sure that they still are in our best interest. I know there's some discussion about the meeting that occurred and that there weren't any Benton County representatives. I would note that Benton County's elected clerk, Josie Delvin, was present at that meeting, so there was at least one Benton County representative there. And although she can't speak on behalf of Benton County, being just the elected clerk, it did sound like her husband, who championed the prior push to split the judicial districts, is still in favor of that proposal. So I think it is something, getting those stakeholders involved and analyzing whether it's the best for our community in terms of service, but also where our money's going, is certainly step one, if we do want to go that route. On the point of the judges and where they reside, I know the judges could reside anywhere. That's certainly true. But I think if there were a judicial split, look at it this way: as a voter, would you be wanting to vote a judge that lives in Benton County to represent Franklin County residents on Franklin County cases? I mean, pragmatically, there could be, by making that split, it could, in effect, result in a scenario where we probably have more Franklin County judges on our bench. I'm not saying that's, going to happen. Certainly, we're a long way from it, but that's something else to consider, is having members of the bench that are more reflective of our local community. So anyway, that's all I have.
Any questions? Thank you. Any other department head, elected officials? Seeing nobody coming forward, we will move down to administration office business. Is there any?
No, sir. Just wanted to reconnect on the dates. December 6th being the final meeting of the year, and if you guys collectively want to make that decision, because I don't have the authority to do that, and take a break for the rest of the year.
I would just to say, if there was any business, any
And
critical business that needed to be done, we'd have to call a special meeting.
we could call a special meeting within 24 hours, right, Jeff and Daniel?
Yes.
Yeah. If there was anything on the docket that was extremely important, and I've talked to some of my friends and colleagues over at the City of Pasco, and their final meeting will be December 4th, and they take the rest of the year off. I think it gives the staff a chance to reset and catch their breath. I've talked to department heads and alerted them if there's any business, and I've talked with Jennifer, and she's alerting staff to get things on the December 6th meeting if there's anything critical.
I think Mr. Erdman has something he would like to say.
Yes, I have reports due to the County Road Administration Board by the end of December. Now, off the top of my head, I can't remember how many signatures and if the board needs to sign on this one or not, but be aware that's a possibility. And until I have final budget numbers and stuff like that, I cannot complete the reports. So I don't anticipate that I'll be ready by the 6th to present those if it needs be. And to be honest with you, I have 3 reporting cycles with them, and I can never remember whose signature goes on what anymore. So, and just be aware that I might have to bring that for generally signature of the chair. If there's some provision, perhaps Jeff can talk to this to set that up in advance to have that signed after the report. But generally, it's examined by the board before it moves on to the County Road Administration Board. So just want to bring that to your attention that there might not be, all the business may not be concluded by December 6th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And
Yes, Mr. McGarry.
Question in that, you guys will know the answers. As far as payroll approval, invoice approvals, we can still get that done?
that was that was going to be my next question. And
Okay.
hopefully, I know Tim probably wouldn't know that answer offhand, but
I know we're going to have invoices coming in toward the end of the month that just need to be approved.
okay.
I could add something on that too.
Okay.
Just briefly, we did have a proposal recently to pay warrants that come in, so bills, but without prior to board approval. I know it's not on the agenda today, but we could probably work something in there. There's a statute that allows us to pay things in advance, and it's very common for the board to authorize its employees to pay payroll without having to have a formal commissioner approval, and then they can come in a meeting after that and approve that decision.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
So I'd only bring up also that the levy and budget approvals from all of the different taxing districts have to come before the commissioners. The commissioners have to approve that. They have to do that. I don't know if you can do it in a budget hearing or if they're going to have to do it during a regular commissioner hearing. But that has to be done and signed into my office before the 15th of December, or I cannot levy money for any of the districts, including the county itself. So make sure that you somehow get that in. And I don't know if you can do it during a budget hearing. I know you've got the 4th as a budget hearing, and you normally would have the 6th of December would be your regular meeting. But if you're not done with your budget stuff before then and you're extending it out, you may have to call for a special meeting to get that done. So I just caution you, make sure you get that done, because I can't give anybody money if you don't have that signed for me. Can't make an exception. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we have that scheduled for the 4th, and then the 6th, we have a meeting. And if we have to have a special meeting, we'll have a special meeting. With that, and there's no other administration office business?
No, sir, that's it.
And I would just like to wish everybody out there in Franklin County a happy Thanksgiving. I'm sure the other commissioners would like to do the same, and good health.
Mr.
Good
Chairman,
times.
before we adjourn, was there a decision regarding the last meeting being the 6th?
No.
Okay.
I was
think
looking
that's-
for consensus, and Jeff, do they need
That's
to make
what
a
I-
motion and so we have some clarity on what?
I thought the administrator was looking for a definitive answer. That's why I brought it up.
Yes, that sounds appropriate to have a motion.
Okay. Yeah.
So with that, is there a motion?
Make the motion to have December 6th be the last meeting for the commissioners of 2023.
Second.
Been a motion and a second for December 6th to be the final meeting for Franklin County, and if I may, I would like to amend the motion that if we have to have a special meeting, that we can call that at any time so that we can conduct the business of the county.
Mr. Chair, I'd just add that we should all keep in mind that special meetings may only be for a single topic, and to the extent that we can put multiple actions under a single umbrella, we'd probably be fine. With special meetings, single topic, on the agenda, to my knowledge.
You got me stumped, Commissioner Peck. I'm
Twenty-
not sure off the top of my head. I know
24 hours notice, single topic, I
24
believe.
hours notice. Yeah, typically, well, you'd have to have the 24 hours notice, and it's the one meeting where you can't amend an agenda. So anything you have on the agenda would need to be on there. You can't show up and then have things pop up. So you'd want to be really strict about getting that 24 hours notice out and having, but as far as it being a single topic, I'm not 100% on that. I need to check.
Perhaps you can get back to us after the meeting if
Sure.
if
Yeah.
need be. I think we've got another meeting still at the end of the month that this could be adjusted.
Right, and so I guess, and just to clarify Commissioner Mullins' motion, it was to have December 6th be the last regular meeting, I guess, of the year. That's what it sounds like.
I mean, would it make more sense to have a meeting on the 27th? I mean, that's,
If it's necessary, Jeff, I was going to ask, once a regular meeting is canceled, can you keep it on the docket and if necessity arises, and then once it's canceled,
Once
it's
it's
dead?
canceled, it's
Okay,
canceled.
yeah, and
Right, so-
because it's regularly scheduled on Wednesdays, so the expectation, I was just thinking maybe the expectation is it could happen, but, I don't want to try to go around the process.
Right, it would need to be, if we're not sure we want to cancel it, we want to keep it on for now and then decide later whether we want to, because once you cancel it, right, then there's the issue that it's not a regularly scheduled meeting at that point. So
Right.
it would become a special meeting. But you can give as much advance notice as you want of a special meeting. You don't have to give 24
Right.
hours. You could give, as soon
Yeah.
as you realize that meeting's going to be back on, you could give a week notice if you wanted.
I think 72 hours is all that's required for a regular meeting. It doesn't have to be calendared in advance.
Right, but
So as long as you got 3 days, you can call a regular meeting and put as many things on the agenda as you like.
okay. Again, I need to
Yep.
verify that, but that's,
We got a meeting on the 29th, and if
Okay.
you would please verify that, we
Okay.
will, in fact, we could probably make this motion then and conduct this motion and vote at that time on the 29th.
sure.
I'm in agreement
works.
with that.
So you withdraw your
I
motion?
withdraw my motion.
Okay, there is no motion. If there's no other business for the good of the county, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll be back on the 29th. This meeting is adjourned.